Tomorrow it's your turn to get the ice, little sister.
Imagine someday a freezer that won't need any ice.
Oh, sure. And an oven that won't need wood. You are such a dreamer.
If you need a pickle, cause there's nothing left to spread. Got a kitchen full of people and there's nothing in your head. We've got all the answers, got a lot for you in store. Pickles, sausage, chutney, jelly, jams, and more. Put a lid on it. Put a lid on it. There's just nothing in the world you can't preserve. Put a lid on it. Put a lid on it. Then sit back and get the praise that you deserve.
For working moms and dads, there's an enormous appeal to making preserves that are quick and easy. We've discovered that using a little bit of technology can save a lot of time.
Welcome to Put a Lid on It. Today Jane and I are going to show you how to make freezer jams and microwave jams. Now you can use fresh or frozen fruit in these. The only other ingredients you're going to need are normally sugar and pectin. Preparation time is under half an hour and standing time is about 5 hours. Plus you can keep the freezer jam in your freezer for up to 6 months.
Keeping in mind when you're using that microwave, you're not only saving time, you're saving energy. We've got some great recipes. We're going to make minted raspberry peach, papaya and pineapple,
lemon kiwi fruit, and winter pear amaretto jam.
So we're going to get rid of the dog and we'll join you in the kitchen.
Welcome to Put a Lid on It. Today Jane and I are going to show you how to make 2 fantastic freezer jams.
And 2 great microwave jam recipes. These recipes are great for people on the go because they're quick and very easy.
Now when people think of freezer jams, normally they think of the traditional freezer jams such as plain old raspberry or plain old strawberry like your grandmother or mother used to make. Well, we're going to give you a twist on that. We're going to show you how to make papaya and fresh pineapple jam and minted raspberry peach jam. They're both delicious and they're really quick to make.
Go ahead, your recipe is first, so you go ahead.
The minted raspberry peach jam. Now this is really easy to make. You need 1 cup of fresh or frozen raspberries. You want them mashed. You need 2/3 of a cup of peaches that have been peeled and chopped, 2 tablespoons of fresh chopped mint. Thank you very much. 2 tablespoons of lemon juice and 1 pouch of your liquid fruit pectin. You also need 3.5 cups of sugar. Now we do something different with our sugar. Now this is going to make your freezer jams work a lot better. We take our 3.5 cups of sugar, pour it into a shallow baking dish, and you might want to scrape that sugar out, and we put it into a 250-degree oven for 15 minutes. Now, Jane, do you want to tell them the reason we do this?
We do this so that when the sugar is warm, it dissolves much faster. And the other thing is then you don't get those little crystals in the bottom of your jar with your freezer jam that sometimes you do if all of your sugar hasn't dissolved. So this is what we do with all our freezer jam recipes. Anytime it calls for sugar, put it in the oven and heat it for 15 minutes.
Okay, so Jane's going to get me our sugar that's already heated, but I'm going to start. This recipe works in about 2 stages. So we put in our raspberries and our peaches, along with our fresh mint and the sugar that Jane is getting for me. We're going to stir that up really well, and you'll notice that it might take a little bit of time to get your sugar dissolved, to mix it in. So you just have to be a little patient. Just stir for a little while. So what we do is we stir this all in, and then with this recipe and with Jane's, we let it stand for 10 minutes. And you can stir it occasionally just to help your sugar dissolve. And you can actually feel the heat coming off that sugar. So our next stage is, all ready for me?
Mm-hmm.
Jane's going to bring it. This is one that's been standing already for 10 minutes.
Actually, I think I'll just bring this over so you can see the difference.
Mm-hmm. You can see the sugar's dissolved in our second bowl. So what we do is I'm going to give that another little stir. I'm going to put in our liquid fruit pectin and use a spatula because you want to make sure that you get all of it. And Jane, you can put in my lemon juice if you would.
All right.
So we put our lemon juice in, and then we stir that, and we have to stand and stir it constantly for 3 minutes. Well, you could stand with me.
No, I'm going to do my recipe. Now, my recipe is for papaya and fresh pineapple. Now, we tried to talk those producers of ours into letting us zip off to Hawaii to make this recipe, but no luck. Still, it is a great recipe. Now, what you're going to need is, you want a total of 1 3/4 of a cup of fruit. So we're using 1 cup of fresh papaya and 3/4 of a cup of fresh pineapple. And with the sugar, same thing, same amount. We use 3½ cups of sugar, but I'm going to, do you want me to get it out?
No, you stir and I'll get it for you since I'm closer. So do you want to tell them how many cups my recipe makes?
Well, actually, both our recipes make 4 cups of jam. And we're going to put them in bottles that we've washed and dried well. Now, they're not sterilized because this is a freezer jam recipe. There you go. We're not going to be processing them. You just want to make sure that your jars are clean.
There we go. There's your sugar.
All right.
I'll take my recipe back.
Now, stir this a little quieter, all right?
I'll try.
Now, as in Jennifer's recipe, what I want to do is stir my fruit and my sugar together. It really is a beautiful colored jam. I'm going to stir this together. Now, you'll notice I helped Jennifer a great deal with her recipe, but she's so busy stirring.
I can't do much for you.
I'm sure I'm going to have to go over and get that other recipe by myself.
Well, I can scoot over for
All right.
you.
Now, we just want to show the difference in this, too. You can see how the sugar here has not dissolved, but over here, it looks great. So now I'm going to add my fresh lime juice and my liquid pectin. Now, just to prove how easy freezer jams are to make, yesterday I gave my 9-year-old daughter, Carolyn, this fresh papaya recipe. So I did the cutting. I chopped the pineapple and the papaya for her. But then I just gave her the recipe and said, now, do you think you can make this recipe by yourself? And a half an hour later, she had some great jam, and she was really, really pleased with the results.
She was so pleased that she brought us out a little custard cup full of jam with 4 spoons, and we all had to taste it for her.
Now, I thought you were stirring quietly.
I said I'd try.
Now, with both of these recipes, what you're going to want to do is after you've filled your jars, you're going to want them to sit for about 24 hours. You'll be able to tell when the jam has set. Then you can put it in the fridge. It'll keep for 3 weeks in the refrigerator, or you can put it in the freezer. Now, we like to use these lids because if we're still going to give some of our freezer jam away, it makes a really nice looking gift.
So I'm ready to fill my jars. So our jars have been washed in hot soapy water, and they're ready. And you need to leave enough headspace in the jar so that there's room for expansion, because anything that freezes will expand. So about 1/2 inch. And I could fill 4 jars, but I'm only going to fill 2.
Now, I still have another 1.5 minutes to go with my stirring, but I'm going to follow the same thing. I would just put it in a jar, set it aside for 24 hours, and then we're going to enjoy this great jam. Stay tuned for those microwave recipes we have coming up.
Well, here we are at the craft segment again, and today we're going back to basics. We're going to be talking lids again. There's so many things that you can do with lids. I want to give you another option today. Today I'm going to be using burlap and dried flowers. Now, this is a really easy craft to do, and it's especially great if you're only giving 1 jar of preserves away. It looks fantastic. So I have a piece of scrap burlap. I have the top off an ice cream container, and I'm going to trace a circle all the way around the outside. Now, if you use a marker, it's easier to mark the circle on the burlap. A pen or a pencil doesn't really show up as well. Then I take a pair of pinking shears and I cut the circle out. Now, this makes it so that you don't have a lot of frays around the outside. So since I have this one, I'm going to start. Now, I'll put my lid on, and you know, this is a time when it could really be handy to have an extra pair of hands. And look at that, I do. So we'll hold that down. And then I'm going to tie my cord around the top, just like we do with the cloth. Now, you can use cloth on this as well. It doesn't have to be strictly burlap, but that's what I've chosen for today. Now, while I'm holding that down, I'm going to take my flower and just glue that on. Just put a little bit of glue on the outside, stick it on, and just hold it for a second while the glue sets up. That only does take a second. So then we put another flour on it. I'm only going to put 2 flours on this one, but you can see I do have one that is complete here. Then I take a few more of my dried flours that I picked up at a craft shop, and I tuck those in around with a little bit of my hot glue. Now this is another option. I've taken the dried flours and I've put them all the way around the outside. This is perfect for a wide mouth jar. So there's all kinds of things you can do. Just play with your dried flours and experiment. You'll find something that you really like. So, you know, I really should have had a manicure today.
Well, we have got 2 great microwave jam recipes for you. The first one is lemon kiwi fruit jam, and the second is winter pear amaretto jam. Now, the lemon kiwi fruit jam will make you 2 cups of delicious jam, and the winter pear amaretto is going to give you 1.5 cups of jam. But before we start our recipes, Jennifer's going to talk a little bit about preparing our jars.
Okay, we put our jars in a boiling water bath. Jane always calls it a hot water canner. But we put them in and we just boil them for 10 minutes, and that means they're ready and sterile. And we put our lids on for 5 minutes boiling, just gently, and you always need to check your manufacturer's directions.
Now, she says that I say that like it's a bad thing. You can call it a canner, you can call it a hot water bath, you just have to use it. Now, for this recipe, you're going to use 8 kiwi fruit, medium size, that were peeled and chopped. I'm going to combine that in my bowl with 1.5 cups of white sugar, 3 tablespoons of fresh lemon juice. And you want to use fresh lemons because the flavor really comes through with this kiwi fruit. So, put our last ingredient, which is 1 teaspoon of grated lemon rind. Now I'm going to stir this up, and this recipe has a few stages in the microwave. And speaking of microwaves, now depending on the power of your microwave, when I say put it in for 3 minutes or put it in for 6 minutes, you're going to watch carefully your own microwave, because depending on the power of yours, it may take a little more time, it may take a little less time. So the first stage is we put this in the microwave, set our timer for 3 minutes, give it a stir, set it again for another 3 minutes, take it out, give it a good stir, and then you're going to want to put it in for approximately 12 to 15 minutes. And by then, your jam should be gelled. And you'll notice we're not using any pectin in this recipe, and the reason for that is kiwi fruit is very high in pectin. So Jen, you want to bring me one of those
Take that.
that's been in for 6 minutes?
I'll put this in for 3.
All right.
So I'll just bring yours. There we go.
Now I'm going to show you a gel test, because you're going to want to do that as your final stage. When the drops are coming off here, you can see they're coming a drop here, a drop there. With our 12-minute version, everything's going to come off in one smooth drop, which lets you know that the jam is at a gel stage, which is what you want. So where's the other one, Jen, that's been in there for 12 minutes?
And this one you'd stir every 4 minutes.
Now you can see the difference in the consistency as well as the color. But I'm going to show you this gel test. And everything's going to come off in one smooth drop. You can see here. So this jam is ready to be put into jars and then processed.
Bet you want me to get those jars.
Yes, that would be very nice. Now today we're using the smaller jars because with this recipe giving you 2 cups, when you use your smaller jars, you end up with 4 jars, and if you want to give them away as a gift, then you're not giving away quite as much and you have a little for yourself. How about a jar filler?
That would be good.
Listen, I'll help you when you're doing yours.
So this makes about 1/2 cup in this jar. And I'll get you a lid.
It smells
Ready?
delicious. Now we're going to wipe that rim. Put our snap lid on.
And our screw band, just fingertip tight. Do you want another jar?
Sure, I'll take one more jar. Now another nice thing about using this recipe is, at certain times of the year, kiwi fruit is very inexpensive. In fact, I bought some yesterday, 8 for $1, so it's going to be a very inexpensive batch of jam to make. So I need one lid,
There you go. I was
and we're ready.
fighting the lids. There you go, fingertip tight.
Now I'll get your jars ready while you talk about your recipe.
All right, I'm just going to put your jar filler in there. for our winter pear amaretto jam, you definitely need winter pears. Now, that could be Basque or Anjou, and they're a drier variety, but with the moist heat of the microwave, it gives you a really distinctive jam. We're also going to add to the flavor of the pears an amaretto liqueur, which gives just a hint of almond. So I need a bowl. For this recipe, we use 2 cups of sugar, 1½ cups of our pears, which have been peeled and diced. We have ½ cup of our tart apple, and we used Granny Smith, 2 tablespoons of apple juice, 2 tablespoons of our dry pectin crystals, and we also have 1 tablespoon of our amaretto liqueur. So our first stage, we put our pears and our apples, and I'll stretch and reach for that, our apple juice and our pectin crystals. When you use dry pectin crystals, it always goes in at the first. So we'll put that in, stir it around, and this is going to cook for 6 minutes, the same as Jane's recipe. And we're going to stir it twice at 3 minutes and 6 minutes. Are you ready for me?
Mm-hmm.
So there's our first one. This is what it looks like. And at this stage, we add our sugar, we stir that, and we cook it for another 4 to 5 minutes. Now, it depends on your microwave, but we want to get it to a full rolling boil. And once it reaches that stage, then it has to boil for 1 minute. And at that point, I'm going to pass that on to you again.
Here you go.
And here is our finished product. We only have one more thing to do, and that's add our amaretto. So we'll mix that in, and then we can put it in our jars. So Jane's got our jars ready.
Voila. Actually, I'll set it up here for you.
And that's a great jam.
Jar filler?
Jar filler, thank you. And ladle.
I'll give you everything.
Okay, so there we go. Oh, I put a little too much in there, Jane. Got a little ambitious.
Hey,
So,
I did my recipe all right. That's your problem.
so we take that out, we wipe our rim. Jane's going to put the snap lid on and our screw band. Now both of these recipes are going to be processed for 5 minutes in our boiling water bath. And that's all it takes, and they're complete.
Well, today's success tips are, of course, all about microwave and freezer jams. It's amazing how many people make freezer jam, and yet when you're talking to them and say, "So, do you do any preserving?" their response is, "Oh no, I just make freezer jam." Well, freezer jam is a great alternative to cooked jam, and it's also a great way to start into the art of preserving. Now, I want to talk to you about preserving berries. You want to pick your berries, of course, during berry season when berries are at their freshest, and we want to show you how to do something called flash freezing fruit. You place your berries on a cookie sheet, put them in the freezer, and when they're frozen solid, take them out, put them in a plastic bag, label it, put it back in your freezer, and then you're able to make great jam at any time throughout the year. The microwave is great for defrosting your fruit, and if you've done it that way, you're guaranteed not to have any big clumps of frozen fruit, and it's going to taste just as nice as when the berries were fresh. That's another thing about freezer jam. Freezer jam gives you a wonderful fresh fruit taste. It's much fresher tasting than cooked jam actually, and you'll also get a larger yield with freezer jam than you will with cooked jam. So keep in mind that it's easy, very quick, gives you that higher yield. And something else I want to mention. Now today when we did our freezer and microwave jam, we used glass containers. But now you don't have to do that. A great alternative is to use plastic containers. They don't need to be sterilized. You just want to make sure they're clean. Pop them in the freezer, and they'll work just as well as the glass jars. So grab your paper, pens, or laptops because we've got that recipe recap coming right up.
One cup of fresh or frozen mashed raspberries, 2/3 of a cup of finely chopped peeled peaches, 2 tablespoons of finely chopped fresh mint, 3½ cups of granulated sugar, 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, and 1 pouch of liquid fruit pectin. Place your sugar in an oven-proof shallow pan and warm in a 250-degree oven for 15 minutes. Combine your raspberries, peaches, mint, and sugar in a large bowl and let stand for 10 minutes, stirring occasionally. Add your lemon juice and pectin, stirring constantly for 3 minutes. Ladle jam into clean jars or plastic containers, cover with tight-fitting lids, and let stand at room temperature until set up to 24 hours. Store in refrigerator up to 3 weeks or freeze for longer storage.
You'll need 3½ cups of granulated sugar, 1 papaya peeled, seeded, and finely chopped, 3/4 cup of finely chopped fresh pineapple, peeled and the core removed, 2 tablespoons of fresh lime juice, and 1 pouch of liquid fruit pectin. Warm your sugar and place papaya and enough chopped pineapple to make 1 3/4 cups of total fruit. Stir in your warm sugar and let stand for 10 minutes, stirring occasionally. Stir in lime juice and pectin, stirring constantly for 3 minutes. Ladle into jars, let stand until set, and store in your refrigerator for up to 3 weeks or freeze for longer storage. You'll need 8 medium kiwi fruit, peeled and chopped, 1½ cups of granulated sugar, 1 teaspoon of grated lemon rind, and 3 tablespoons of lemon juice. Place your kiwi fruit and sugar in a large microwavable container. Stir in lemon rind and juice, and microwave uncovered on high for 6 minutes, stirring twice. Microwave uncovered on high for 12 to 15 minutes until your mixture will form a gel, stirring every 4 minutes. Place your jam into jars and process for 10 minutes.
You'll need 1½ cups of diced peeled winter pears, 1/2 cup of chopped peeled tart apple, 2 tablespoons of apple juice, cider, or water, 2 tablespoons of pectin crystals, 2 cups of granulated sugar, and 1 tablespoon of amaretto liqueur. Combine your pears, apple juice, and pectin in a large microwavable container. Microwave uncovered on high for 6 minutes or until mixture comes to a boil. Stir twice. Add your sugar, microwave uncovered on high for 4 to 5 minutes or until the mixture returns to a full boil and boils hard for 1 minute. Stir in your liqueur. Place in jars and process for 5 minutes.
Well, we had a great time on today's show. Now, this is the last show of our series, and we've had a great time on every show.
Showing you how to make jams and jellies and chutneys and pickles and relish and fixins for the barbecue, liqueurs and syrups.
Okay, we have had a good time. And we want you to know that we appreciated all those letters that you sent us, and keep them coming in because we need new recipes for next season, new stories to tell. And we hope that if you were a novice preserver when we started this series, maybe we eased you into it. And if you were a pro, hopefully we gave you some great new recipes. We really do appreciate you watching each and every show, and we want to thank you. And we'll see you next season on Put a Lid on It.